Hello and welcome to Kimboshi Radio, here on the Kimboshi Sumo channel, where at long last I am pleased to be rejoined by Nick. Nick, how are you doing?
Good. Work is still terrible, but at least I carved out an hour for this.
I was about to say, thank you for doing the best you can for us, because, yeah, that's just always going to be the case. Late stage capitalism, things are going great. However, where things are indeed going great, we have a Bansuke, we've got an Osaka Stormy Basho around the corner. How are you feeling about it, Nick? How are you feeling about this upcoming tournament?
Good. I kind of like where everything's stacked out.
Me too. And, yeah, you go.
Like, there were just a couple ones I was hoping for, like, Atamifuji did better than Wakataka Kage, so I was glad that he got the Komusubi slot, even though Wakataka Kage was closer, and I don't know, some of those things shook out. I think I like the stack up.
Me too, yeah, exactly, because now that we officially have that Bansuke, you know, I had done a poll and talked about it, but like, the majority of people were on the Atamifuji side. Actually, Phil was on the team Yoshinofuji, wanting him to get that slot, but I feel like this is a healthy Bansuke and it shook out the way it should, especially when we look at performances last time. But speaking of that, I do want to start us off with a little bit of the news. So in that sort of like vein, Atamifuji, I guess, is the first Shizuoka. Oh man, I read the story on Sponichi. I don't remember if it's the first time someone from Shizuoka has made it into the Sanyaku in 96 years, or if it's that people from Shizuoka are hoping for him to be the first yusho winner in 96 years. But even around that, like, it's going to be tough, because last Basho we had people like Asanoyama. There's a story in Nikon Sports where he's saying 9 wins wasn't enough. He wants double-digit wins, was disappointed he didn't get that, so that's exciting. There's a story also in Nikon Sports, but I think I saw it picked up in Hochi Sports as well, where Aonishiki has added some weight. He was 140 kilos, I guess, in January, and now he's up to 143. There was also another story in Sponichi about new Ukrainian restaurant opens and is helping him gain weight. I don't know, just funny, funny stuff, especially considering I've just been talking a lot about weight, and actually, interestingly, 150 kilos is that magic number usually for people to get into Sekitori. So Aonishiki's doing all this at a quote-unquote underweight, which is really interesting. How do you feel about that? I mean, he's reportedly gone from 140 to 143, according to the Nikon Sports story, but how do you feel about some weight gain on Aonishiki?
God, it's so crazy to think that he's underweight considering how big he is.
Right. Well, and it's like when you see him next to the Giants, you can see it. You can see that he's small. But it's that classic thing where when you see selfies of regular people next to Wakataka Kage, or even when Arashi Abeyo a year and a half ago had, what's his face, the linebacker from the Dallas Cowboys, I think he plays for the Packers now or whatever, but had him come to their stable. And he just looked like a tiny baby. And that was an NFL linebacker, because Wakataka Kage looks so big, but against these Giants, he looks tiny. So Aonishiki, maybe same stuff.
Well, that's true. So, like, I literally am looking at the Haru poster.
Yeah.
From, it's like I'm looking at the poster and it's like he's next to Atamifuji. I'm like, God, he does look small compared to Atamifuji.
But Atamifuji is, I believe, at 206 kilos, the heaviest guy in the top division. And he still is like...
So when putting those two next to each other, you're like, oh, wow.
Exactly. So it's really interesting. I mean, I hope adding only 3 kilos, I don't think we're running into a Kaio situation, who's a guy who added too much weight too fast and lost all his mobility. So I think the slow weight gain is useful. But I also think it's interesting to note that even Hakuho was actually like 191, 192 centimeters tall. So he would have been up in that top tier for Rikishi height, but was only like between 150 and 155 kilos. So it's like, again, what's interesting about that is that 150 magic number, that even Hakuho needed that 150, but you don't need more than that. But the idea is you should be there.
Yeah, it looks like, because I was thinking Hoshoryu kind of did that, where it was like a slower gain, and he's at, well, according to his page, about 148.
Oh, so he's right in that wheelhouse too. And so again, yeah, like you said, there was that whole year, I think it was 2024, where we were all watching Hoshoryu and we're like, because he gained more weight more quickly than Aonishiki is doing, but he did it earlier, right? Like during his Sekiwake Ozeki days. And we all watched him kind of like lose some of his mobility, but he got it back. So Aonishiki, maybe this is going to be a safer, better technique. Just keep eating that Ukrainian food, I guess. And I will say the other Nikon Sports story that I saw and kind of wanted to talk about a little bit is that this is the first basho where the former Takakeisho, the current Oyakata Minatogawa, has taken over his old stable. So now like Takanosho, Takakeisho's his coach. And again, in Nikon Sports, I just liked the lead quote where they're talking about, they led the story with, "We're not friends, beat them down." And I'm like, oh, that does feel like Takakeisho the fighter, but doesn't feel like Takakeisho that I've seen in interviews. But maybe that's some of what we've always talked about, where like a lot of the personality gets coached out of these guys. Maybe this is who he always was. But what do you think about that quote? And what you think that says for the new Minatogawa boys, which is, Takasaga. These are guys we've seen before, Takanosho, stuff like that. What do you feel about that quote and him taking over the stable?
Oh, I'm so conflicted on it because I know it's like you have to have like that mentality, whatever. It's a combat sport. Like you still have to have that.
Yes.
But also I'm like, oh, this is going to turn into another injury factory.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I know. You and I have really high hopes that he can be one of the guys to change it. I had JJ on the podcast a couple episodes ago. Go back and listen to that show if you guys want. But yeah, JJ said the same thing, literally like the same thing as you, where he was like, I have high hopes that Takakeisho will be the kind of guy to push for change. He's like, I think anyone who says they know what kind of coach Takakeisho is going to be is lying, because we have no information,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially with his past and like the injuries and everything that he suffered, I'm like, hopefully.
Right. That's where we're hoping for that change. So we'll see.
But it's not the change we got with Isegahama.
Again,
which is your favorite topic.
Oh my God. Thank you for bringing it up, because I love to stand on a soapbox and complain. But yeah, I think he's going to bounce back, but I do think that we have just aggressively, like little butter knife, chopped the peak off of Takerufuji's career now. That like rolling him back out there with not just a torn bicep, it was just like off the bone, man. Come on. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I should only say that if Phil is here, he can actually talk about the injury. But from me watching it, it looked like I was watching a muscle pop or a tendon pop off a bone. Whatever. It doesn't Whatever.
I don't need to be a doctor to know it was bad.
Exactly. Clearly things aren't going well. He's struggling grinding out 8 and 7s in Juryo right now. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Now, I want to get into the meat of this. We've kind of rounded up the news, so let's get into some preview talk. And we got to start with the current Yokozunas, even though I know we've got a lot of Aonishiki stuff we want to cover, but Hoshoryu and Onosato. Clearly neither was healthy at the start of last basho, and we knew that going in. Both went 10-5, which I was talking to Phil last week, but it's like 10-5 for a Maegashira 5. Oh, love it. Mwah, chef's kiss. 10-5 for Yokozunas. Everybody's ringing the alarm bells. The Star Trek klaxons are going off. I did see a story in Nikon that Onosato fought Kotozakura in a practice session, a joint stables practice, and went 8-4. So, that's what he should be doing against a fellow big body top of the Sanyaku, Ozeki versus Yokozuna. How do you feel about the two Yokozunas going into March, Nick?
Honestly, I feel pretty good at it. Like, okay. I know you said like with 10-5 at Yokozuna, people are like, "Oh God, what's happening?" And like, I think it was Hoshoryu's uncle who was upset about it.
Asashoryu, yeah, he's always
so.
Yeah,
but I was like, typically, Hoshoryu's always 12-13. Onosato is pretty much always like 13-14 wins. It's like one that they're both unhealthy. If they're both unhealthy and they're scoring 10s, I'm like, I'm willing to give them the grace and be like, yeah, it's fine. They'll probably be fine this time.
I agree with you. Like the bigger concern for me with Onosato was that, and we talked to Phil about this in the injury report, and we'll have him back next week to break down injuries again, but was that he seemed scared to test his left shoulder, whereas by contrast, Hoshoryu showed no fear about the partially torn meniscus, which made me feel a lot of fear. I was like, you're going to fully tear it, stop. But that interesting, I don't know. What do you think? Because we just talked about Takerufuji and Isegahama. What do you feel about those two attitudes where, to me, it looked like Onosato was overprotecting the formerly dislocated left shoulder, whereas Hoshoryu was not being protective enough against the meniscus, but we got the same results. We got 10-5 from both of them, and they both gave up a handful of kinboshi. You got any thoughts on that?
So it's interesting because, you don't want them, once somebody gets injured and they're afraid of re-injuring themselves, they're going to basically be afraid forever, which I don't think Onosato is that type of person, but it's that does happen in sports.
Yep.
Man, I'm like, you gotta be careful. Like the attitude you want is that they are trying to be careful not to re-injure themselves, because like we talked about before we started recording, it's like how many more Yusho could Terunofuji have gotten if it wasn't for his injury and like just having to fight on it over and over?
Yes.
And Onosato's already halfway to Terunofuji, so it's like I don't want to see that cut short.
Yes.
But it's like I think he could easily break Terunofuji's record.
Yeah, like if you really asked me, I mean, this means nothing, but like I would be surprised based on what we have seen and the current landscape in sumo. Like if Onosato doesn't retire at age 33 with 25 Yusho, I'd be shocked. However, it is so easy for that reality to happen in sumo. One blown out knee, and all of a sudden, we're ending Onosato's career 10 years from now with 7 Yusho, and we're like, well, actually, that's very good. But it's what you're saying is the promise, the ceiling is so high. Who knows? Who has any idea if he's going to get anywhere near that ceiling? But that's the factor. So I don't know. And got to trust the athletes to know their bodies. Like you said, like, okay, protect it if you need to. But then Hoshoryu, I guess by the same token, we need to trust that he doesn't feel like he needs to protect that knee and he feels like he needs to go out and win. So there you go. As long as he's not making those choices because he has that external pressure, like from his uncle, who, I don't know, every time I see an Asashoryu about Hoshoryu story, I feel like he's being too harsh, but maybe that's me judging about how I would, maybe that's the kind of motivation Hoshoryu responds to. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. I was like, and I just don't want Hoshoryu to be like, well, if it breaks, it breaks. Like, I don't want him to have that attitude either.
Exactly. No. Yeah, we don't want that. But I mean, we don't know. I'll have Phil break some stuff down for us next week. If these two guys are still injured, or if Onosato's still going to be protecting that shoulder, and if we still have these sort of like wounded Yokozuna, which maybe we don't, but like let's move down the Bansuke. Aonishiki, the real story here is he has won back-to-back Yushos. He's pushing for a third straight. If he gets the third straight, I think that there's no doubt that he immediately becomes a Yokozuna, which is insane. But we've already talked about before, he's a freak. You and I were actually talking before we started, and the last time, it's been more than a decade since we got 3 straight. It was actually Hakuho. Even Terunofuji, in that absolutely stellar run he had in 2021, didn't get 3 in a row because Hakuho came back like his one last hurrah before retirement and stole the potential 3 straight from Terunofuji. So we have not seen this since Hakuho. There have been multiple Yokozuna since then. Can Aonishiki do it? How are you feeling about that?
I think if the setup is like last time, where if Hoshoryu and Onosato maybe aren't 100%, I think he could.
Yeah.
Because like we even saw Onosato got 2 in a row, a runner-up, and then another one. So it's like he was close to shattering that record, and then it's like maybe this is Aonishiki's turn.
Exactly, right? Like, if I really had to guess, I'd say he falls short, but we were talking like, I see no reason why him getting a runner-up, especially if it's a playoff loss, doesn't still deserve a Yokozuna promotion after back-to-back, including one of those wins as an Ozeki. There are reasons why that might not happen, but for me, that seems like an equivalent kind of performance. But yeah, like the interesting thing is that Aonishiki has still never gotten more than 12 wins in his career. And the famous quote that Goose on Sunday Morning Sumo Show likes to bring up from Ozeki, the former Kisenosato, but 12 wins is not a Yusho, right? Aonishiki's never gotten a 13, and even last time, he lost to Oho, which you and I think is a very excusable loss, but Oho went 4-11 and has tumbled out of the Sanyaku now. He lost to Kirishima, who had a great basho and is on an Ozeki run now, but the interesting thing about the Kirishima loss is that Kirishima beat Aonishiki doing Aonishiki's style of sumo. He just stayed in front of him every time Aonishiki tried to attack from angles. Kirishima just kind of swallowed him up and outdid him there. And then he lost to Onosato, which he continues to do, right? But that's that thing is like, you want to be an Yokozuna, then like you got to start showing that you can go toe-to-toe with this guy. We know he can beat Hoshoryu, but it's this interesting thing of like, is size really that big of a factor, or are these 3 extra kilos enough to do it? I think 3 extra kilos aren't the thing. I do want to see him at 150 and see what he can do. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that? Because the 12 versus 13 wins, he's never gotten 13 wins, and he's taken L's. All 3 of those losses were to the Sanyaku. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want to see from an Ozeki. But from a Yokozuna, maybe we want a little more? How are you feeling about that, Nick?
It's really what sticks to me. It's like, It's the only crushing part about him being so consistent.
Yeah,
Like you said, where he's never gone over 12, which
yeah.
I think we talked about that with Hoshoryu too.
Probably. I
Before
think
he got promoted, he rarely goes above. Is it 12?
he had his absolutely stellar 13 runner-up to Kotozakura. Remember that last day when they were both 13-1 and whoever went 14-0 was going to win it? But yeah, he has spiced in 13-win performances. He's got a couple of them, but it's that same thing like you're saying. Hoshoryu, I still think his 2025 was monstrous. The question which people rightfully ask on the channel is like, yeah, but was it monstrous for a Yokozuna? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
God, if he can crack into like the teens, I would love that. And I'd be like, all right, that's it. That's all you need to see.
Yeah, I know. What exactly? Yeah. So what's the ideal story for you here? Is it that Aonishiki manages to go 13-2? He's able to finally flip and get a win over Onosato, healthy or injured, whatever, but is able to kind of like put that spooky ghost to rest.
I want to see him get the 13-2 and get like a runner up, and I'd be like, all right, he's solid.
Really? Yeah, that's all you want. Yeah, you don't even need to see him get the win. You just want to see, yeah. And you think
honestly, I don't need to see him beat Onosato specifically because he already has the Hoshoryu Yokozuna wins, which not a lot of other people get.
Right. Like he's very good. Yeah. So I think that's I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what I want, but yeah. Like I said, I think he's done so much so fast that I want to just put him at Yokozuna, but I do want like the bona fides to be there. I don't want any doubt conversations like Hoshoryu still gets, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. Yeah. What about, speaking of doubt though, like just staring across the aisle at Kotozakura, how you feeling about yet another 8-7 grinded out?
It's so disappointing. Because I love Kotozakura. I think he's great, but I'm like, I think this is gonna be the career for him, which is not. Oh no, he finishes like the 4th highest or 3rd highest wrestler, but
we already talked about it's about age and injuries, and it's not that he's old; it's that he's older, right? Like he's looking at 30, and he's giant, 189 centimeters, 179 kilos. The knees are not going to be there. He's still good. That's not the problem, but like. What we were talking about with Onosato, with a body the size of his, we actually want him to do the majority of his work on the front end because the final 2 or 3 years of his career could be sitting out a ton of tournaments like Teru did, you know? So Kotozakura, I'm like, uh-oh, are we already in the final 2 or 3 years of his career?
And it's not a bad place to finish. Like I said, he's at Ozeki. Like,
yep.
Even when you look at the Sumo Association boards, like a lot of those guys didn't even get that high.
No, yeah, exactly. No, he's great. And the only problem for him, like he's already outdone his dad, but he hasn't outdone his grandfather.
Oh, that's right.
I know, right? So that's the problem. And also there was a story on, I think it was the Yomiuri Shimbun. I'll look it up while we go here, but F1 has a race in Japan, and Kotozakura, I guess, is going to do some stuff. There's a special collaboration between the JSA and F1, which is a big deal, right? Like, could that put different eyeballs on sumo? I don't know. You and I are always very protective of sumo and don't want it to be just like a spectacle. So whatever, but like, it's interesting to me. I don't know if that's the JSA protecting their Yokozunas, like wanting them to make sure that they keep training so that they perform at peak responsibility, or just not wanting to surrender the rights of their Yokozunas to another sports organization or whatever. But like the guy that they chose is Kotozakura. So like on some levels, the JSA still sees Kotozakura as the face of sumo, you know?
That isn't interesting. I didn't even think about that versus like they didn't grab Onosato.
I know. And like I said, and they didn't grab Aonishiki either, but I think that's partly they want like, I don't know. It's like, he's Japanese. He's from one of the traditional big boy stables. He is an Ozeki. He's got pedigree in his family with a grandfather as Yokozuna, father as a Sekiwake. Like, it makes perfect sense why they would pick Kotozakura for that, but it is interesting to still see him struggling and grinding and maybe not fully healthy and stuff like that, but still, like you're saying, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Being one of the 5 best at your sport in the world is insane. It's just interesting how it looks if we depending on who we compare him to, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when we zoom in so tightly at the top, it's like, yeah, it doesn't look great,
Yeah.
but
Because, like, same thing, we'll slide off Kotozakura if you want to say anything else, it's all good. But, like, Sekiwake, looking down at that, like, two former Ozekis, Kirishima now 22 in his last 2, so he is on an Ozeki run if he can manage another 11-win tournament here. But Takayasu, you were telling me an interesting stat that he has been in the Sanyaku for a year. But, like, again, this idea of consistency, those two guys didn't have the consistency of Kotozakura. So, you know, and they're still great as well. How do you feel about Kirishima and Takayasu?
I love seeing Takayasu up high. Like, I don't know that he's never gonna get back up to Ozeki, but it's like seeing him back up to in the Sanyaku, and he's been up here for a long time, and I like it. I like seeing him up there,
Yes.
and I'm just gonna pretend his back just doesn't even exist. But Kirishima, I genuinely think is on a tear. I'd love to see him get back up to Ozeki. I felt so bad for him when he fell out.
I know. We are such big Kirishima stans in this house, and it's so painful because he like tempts us and then falls apart. But usually he tempts us within every other. He'll have 11 wins, then 8 wins, 11 wins, then 6 wins, 12 wins, then 4 wins. You know, like this kind of weird stuff. Whereas this time I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so close. He's got 2 together. But then even comparing that, looking down the Bansuke, the Komusubi and the Maegashiras one, like the Waka brothers, I don't know. They did that stuff too, and they kept falling short. So I don't know. Do you think Kirishima's going back to Ozeki if you had to guess in March?
Ultra Optimist says absolutely.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's not the field around him has barely changed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He should be able to do like another 11 or 12.
Yes, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do what he did before. Yeah, agreed. And that win against Aonishiki was a big deal. I think that means he can, you know, it's not like time is passing him by. As opposed to Takayasu, who time's not passing him by. He's more like the ageless wonder. But the ageless wonder means, holy smokes, look at him still going 8-7 banging bodies at Sekiwake. You know?
Yeah, that's true. It's a little different.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm scared, like, does he go back up to Ozeki? And then if he falls out again, he basically has to quit.
Takayasu, yeah. And I'm
or Kirishima.
Oh, Kirishima? Oh my gosh.
Like if he gets back up to Ozeki and then does it, falls apart again, it's like you basically have to retire.
I don't think so, but I totally know where you're coming from. But like I said, I'm a Kirishima stan, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's
more from like his pride and like his stable. They'd be like, no.
Yeah. It's tough. I would hope he could put a more consistent run because, again, last time he was at Ozeki, he was making a Yokozuna run when he fell apart. But like we were talking about, let me scroll down here and see exactly how many basho he had at Ozeki. 6. So he had a full 12-month stint as an Ozeki. Kotozakura's already doubled that, you know? So like, it's like you're talking about of like, the more shocking thing with Kirishima, and he got injured, that was the answer for why or whatever, but like, why couldn't you just grind out 8 and 7s the way that Kotozakura is? So I totally see where you're coming from, Nick.
Because at the same time, it was Kirishima, Kotozakura, and Hoshoryu. It's like, well, what happened with the other 2?
Yes.
Again, I know there was the injury, but...
Right, yep. So we'll see, but I think, yeah, we both expect high things from them, but then what does that mean for our Komusubis and our Joijin this time? Because like, okay, we talked about this before when we had sort of that little stretch where, I mean, it was studs. It was Daieisho and Abi holding down Sekiwake's. It was, you know what I mean? When we have this really dense top of the Bansuke, what do you think that means for the Waka brothers? Motoharu is at Komusubi and Wakataka Kage is at Maegashiras 1. Our Shin Komusubi, Atamifuji, who has struggled in the past up here, like is he about to get blasted? Or Yoshinofuji, who got a full-on rank freeze. He went 8 and 7. He had the 2 Kimboshi, but again, I'm glad that I thought he was going to get the half rank promotion, but he didn't even get that, which is fine. But like those guys, let's do those 4 first and then move down the Bansuke. But if we feel really good about our top 6, does that mean that 4-pack underneath them is about to get blasted?
God, I didn't even want to look at Atamifuji because it's like every time he gets close, he just falls apart.
I know.
But I want him to do so well.
Yeah, we're going to go long form on him later when we do our Yung-zeki update, but I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
I do think so. I think it's going to be a real struggle for those guys. Like, I'm honestly, I'm not looking at 2 and below. I'm looking at just like the Waka brothers, the Atamifuji and Yoshinofuji, and I'm like, oof.
I know. Well, we just saw Takanosho get like this happens. You know, it doesn't mean you're not good. It's just if we feel this strongly about our top 6, what's happening down there. If you and I are both confident that Kotozakura and Takayasu should continue to grind out 8s and 7s, well, we know where the 7's coming from. The 7's coming from the likes of Hoshoryu and Onosato, Aonishiki, Kirishima, right? But like, the 8 wins have to come from someone, and this is who they're fighting, so...
And unfortunately for them as well, is like, look who's right below them. Abi, Daisho, Oho, Takanosho. I'm like, well, that's not an easy... You're getting kind of squeezed from both sides on this time.
And let's move on. Let's talk about those guys. So let's talk about our Joijin. So Chura no Umi up to Maegashira 2. He might be struggling a little bit, but that is a guy who is so impressive. He's the pride of Okinawa right now with his impressive Oshizumo coming late in his career. But Fujinokawa's up there after a very impressive double-digit win tournament. And he just like... What an insane ball of muscle. At this point, I think Fujinokawa... I don't know. I shouldn't say this yet, but like Ishiura is always the standard. I hold these, what Phil likes to call the fit fats too. But Fujinokawa, I'm like, you might be about to like replace Ishiura. Hira de Umi is there, who is an absolute menace for these guys. Oho has dropped out of the Sanyoku, but he's still at M3, and we're like, you and I talk about him as a Yung-zeki contender. That's another guy whose grandpa was a Yokozuna, and he's absolutely enormous. But then Daisho and Abi. Finally, your boy Abi has gotten a good tournament. He got double digits. He was at Maegashiras 12, so this may be an over-promotion, but like it's Abi, we know he deserves to be there. Daisho absolutely smacking people. Kotoshoho's probably gonna eat a lot of crow down here, but like that's a guy who's won a yusho. I mean, holy smokes, Nick, right? Like the Joijin, who's the most interesting story to you out of there as we have this absolute, I think, murderer's row from M5 and up?
God, that's a good question. I'm not. That's one of the things. Like we've talked so much about Abi and Daisho. I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised to think that they're gonna do well. But it's like, look at their past. They're not a surprise.
Right.
That's a good question. It's hard to know. Like with Hiro de Umi. And I don't know enough about the 2s. And then Yoshinofuji, I'm like, I want you to do well, but man, good luck with what's around you.
And he's been tapering off. Now, that doesn't mean he can't take a step up, but the interesting thing, Phil was talking last week about Yoshinofuji's consistency, and he's correct. But what's interesting comparing Yoshinofuji's consistency to Aonishiki's consistency is never falling below 11 wins. Yoshinofuji's consistency is never getting a makekoshi. Again, extremely good. Yoshinofuji is one of the best sumo wrestlers in the world. But we are splitting the hairs right now. We are talking about the top of the top.
Yeah, and there is always such a massive difference between even just a couple levels below the Sanyaku. Mm-hmm. Like it's the skill and the consistency gets very apparent very quickly.
Right. Why is your storyline out of here not Abi? Why is that not a lock for you as world's #1 Abi fan? There's a couple viewers who would fight you for that, but as at least...
I think most of the Western audience is gonna fight me on that one.
They hate him so much.
They hate him, and I love him, and that's like, he's probably gonna go at least 10, 11. I just don't think it's a surprise for me.
Oh, that's why, because you're so confident that you think it's not a surprise. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, no, that's what it's been. It's like, he's going to do it.
Yes, my man. I mean, honestly, though, like, I don't even think you're wrong. It is, I am not going to be surprised to see Abi with 9, 8, or 7 or whatever, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see 10, like you're saying, because I'm like, Abi can beat Oho, Abi can beat Takanosho, Abi can beat Kotoshoho, Abi can beat Ichi Yamamoto, you know what I mean? There's so many guys in there that I'm like, yeah, he can beat them. Sure, he's going to take L's. I don't think Abi's winning the yusho from this point.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
He's back up to the point where it's like, he's not guaranteed like 11 safe fights.
Yes. Okay, let's move forward. So how about in the middle Maegashiras? So huge category here, but I'm going to go all the way from Maegashira 6 to Maegashira 14 here and call these our middle Maegashiras. What do you think? Ichi Yamamoto's there. Onokatsu Hakunofuji has dropped down here, but he had an injury, so I don't know what that means there. Shodai and Ura always in the mix with their veteran spirit. Tamawashi there as well. Gonoyama, again, still struggling. I don't know. Asanoyama making big talk, saying he wants double-digit wins, and he's at Maegashira 12. Asakoryu there had a good tournament going 9 and 6. Tobizaru in the mix. Or Fujiseiyun, the hot stuff from Juryo, coming back up. Anyone exciting you out of the middle Maegashiras?
Just one funny thing. It's like with Ichi Yamamoto being right below Abi. I'm like, oh man, that's gonna make it. And I might just be overthinking. I'm like, but I feel like that's gonna make it look worse. When it's like you fight the same, but Abi is just like a level above you.
Oh, we got baby Abi right
As
there.
well as I want him to, but
Yeah. I don't know though. He's gotten so much better. And, like, again, I'll refer everyone back to JJ's deep dive analysis on the Sunday Morning Sumo Show channel of Ichi Yamamoto, but like his belt game is better. I think we often underestimate how big he is. He's 190 centimeters, so that's like 6'2", I think, maybe bigger than that, but he's huge. Actually, he's like an inch taller than Abi. I agree with you. I still think he's baby Abi, but it's getting closer, Nick. We're splitting the difference.
Is he gonna be teenage Abi now?
Oh, he's not a baby anymore. We've moved on from Muppet Babies and we're getting on to
I'm always interested too to see Asanoyama because it's like I know I think I'd mentioned last time.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that he hadn't retired.
Yes.
And then now to see him come back with 9 wins, I'm like, that's pretty good. To see if he can do 10, I'm gonna be pumped for him.
And I think he can.
I don't know that he's getting back up to Ozeki again, but it's like I'd like to see him back in the Sanyaku.
I agree. And I actually, for exactly what you're talking about, I think Asanoyama is huge. This is a huge tournament for him because we talk all the time when we do our picks and dark horses, which we'll do at the end like always, but Maegashira 12 means Asanoyama is still fighting around a lot of guys who should be worse than him. His first 7, this is where he has a very clean path at 7-0 in the first week. Whereas once you get up to where Daisho and Abi are at, that's where you start to lose that chance. So I'm with you. This is where I don't think he's getting back to Ozeki, but if he's going to try to win another yusho, I think now's the time to try to make that big move. I don't think he should be looking at 10 wins. I think he should be trying for 12. Obviously he is. Everybody wants to go 15-0. That's not the point. But like, this is where he could be a surprise dark horse contender at Maegashira 12, where I'm less convinced he could be a dark horse at like Maegashira 7 just because the competition gets stiffer, you know?
Yeah.
What about the bottom? Any surprises here? So our beloved, it's been a couple years since we used to be like riding and conducting the Nishiki-Fuji train, but for these bottom Maegashiras, if we're talking about guys who can throw in upsets, Maegashira 14 is Nishiki-Fuji down here. Chiyoshoma is also at Maegashira 14. Midori-Fuji, the Giant Slayer is still down there. Mitakeumi, former Ozeki, our Yung-zeki pick, your Yung-zeki pick, I shouldn't take credit for it because I think you were very smart, but Kinbozan is down here at M6 right now. Kotoeho's back up. Fujiryoga, and then Asahaku-ryu. Anyone you're really excited about in the bottom Maegashiras?
Well, I have to say, I've cooled it on Nishiki-Fuji, but I'm happy to see that he's still up here because he had that dip back down in a Jurio, and I'm glad to see he's at least still, he deserves to be up here.
Yes.
I will say I was probably wrong on Kinbozan. Just a guess that he's not getting up to the top now.
Yeah. I agree, but he's still like, you can't coach size, you know what I mean? He's still, we've talked about it a million times, so it's not totally worth repeating, but like, Kinbozan's footwork is so suspect, and that's the problem. He just doesn't keep his... If you compare Kinbozan to Kotozakura and Onosato and Oho, so those guys are all these like kaiju class, they're at least on that most recent video I did, they're guys we would call mountains. They're outliers in their height and weight, but he just doesn't have steady footwork. And so the way to beat him is just wait for him to overcommit and then attack from an angle, and down he goes every single time. But he, against these guys at the bottom, Mitakeumi has the veteran savvy to do that, but I don't know if he has the athleticism at this point in his career to do it. Like, I could see Kinbozan cleaning house down here.
It's true. I mean, I could see it. It's one of those things where, like you said, it's like the size and the strength maybe at this level does make a lot of difference. It's just like, where I don't think he's getting top is like you said, he's just not dialed in quite on the technique, and that's what makes the difference when you get to that top level.
I think so too, yeah. But I think Kinbozan is a perfect transition, Nick. I want to get a little update because we have not talked about this for a couple months now, but I want to get an update to our Yung-zeki sweepstakes. So we actually ended with 5 guys that we threw in there. I will say we ended with 4 guys, and then I forced a 5th guy in there. But I want to update the 5 guys that we thought could be an Ozeki by the end of this year, all of whom still count as young Rikishi, aka if they got to Ozeki, they'd be doing it younger than the average promotion. And the first one, obviously, that we need to talk about is Atamifuji. 12 wins, Jun Yusho, making his Komusubi debut. I want to play a little game here where I ask you to take the temperature, and we're going to be in Celsius here. 100 degrees is boiling hot. You are convinced that this guy's going Ozeki. 0 degrees is frozen solid, ice cold. You think that our pick was awful and there's no chance anymore. Where would you put your degrees, your temperature right now on Atamifuji's Ozeki shot?
I'm going to give him at least an 80.
80 degrees.
I think he can do it. I'm doing it. I think he can do it.
Yeah. Why? Break it down for me. Because we just talked about hesitation because he struggled at the heights before, and the 6 guys above him are really tough.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be extremely difficult, but I believe in him, and that's really all I'm going off of, is that I think he can do it in my gut.
Listen, he's an outlier in size. He is, by weight, he is the biggest guy in the division, so he can bang bodies with anyone, and 2 Kinboshi last Basho. I think that matters. If we're talking about his previous struggles at the top, I think him getting 12 wins and getting 2 Kinboshi, his losses last time, 1 to Aonishiki, fine. Again, he lost Aonishiki in the playoff as well. But the day 1 and day 2, Daisho and Tamawashi are a little bit inexcusable, but not really. Those are former Sanyaku, but really, if we're going to talk about him as an Ozeki at this point in their career, he needs to be beating them. But it was really impressive to me to see him go from day 3 through day 11 and run off wins in every one of those matches, then to stumble against Aonishiki but not fall apart, to reel off 3 more wins, including a win against Kirishima, who was in top form, to get himself into that playoff. I'm with you. 80 degrees is a perfectly acceptable temperature to be on Atamifuji, because the guy, I think this is it. This tournament will be huge for him, right? But like, I think we're seeing it. I think this is him finally turning over the leaf, as long as the arthritis in his hips isn't flaring up, you know?
That's fair. That's out of control.
Right. The same thing we talked about Terunofuji's knees, blah, blah, blah. How about the next one? Between 100 and 0 degrees Celsius, where is your temperature now on Yoshinofuji? 8 and 7 last Basho, hold serve at Maegashiras 1, 2 Kinboshi, but what are you doing just grinding out Kachikoshis? Where's your temperature now on Yoshinofuji?
Oh, I think for me, this is going to be kind of the make or break tournament to decide for him. So like, I'm maybe like a 60.
So you are warmer than you are cold, but this is getting problematic. Why problematic for you?
It's a tough slot when you get up to this level and he hasn't been up here before. Like, it's just a whole different skill level. Like, and it's just kind of like Atamifuji. Last time he was up there, he kind of got beat down and then he came back up, and there's a good chance that could happen to Yoshinofuji, which wouldn't be surprising or like bad.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just, you've never consistently fought at these people.
Right. This right now is him getting consistently tested there. When he went 9 and 6, it was Maegashiras 5, and his 7 losses, like, he lost to Ozeki Kotozakura. He lost to Ozeki Aonishiki. He lost to Sekiwake Kirishima. He lost to Sekiwake Takayasu. That's not bad, but that's not what an Ozeki does. The same way that many listeners have complaints about Hoshoryu, saying they're not saying he's not good, they're saying they don't feel like he's a Yokozuna. Well, this is the same thing. Those losses, man, Ozekis don't take all those losses. They go 50-50 in those. Now, do the 2 Kinboshi mean something? Of course, but still problematic.
Yes.
Yeah, right, exactly. If we go a little further down here, another guy that we said yes on was Oho, who was already at Komusubi. We talked about loving his size, his big body, his pedigree, and the fact that he can beat anyone. We just saw with Yoshinofuji, he can beat anyone. Where's your temperature now with Oho after getting blasted 4 and 11, but he's only dropped to Maegashiras 3, so he has a chance for a big bounce back, but we talked about how competitive the top is. Where's your temperature on Oho?
Oh, that's such a good question. Really, I'm looking back and it's like he typically at 2 to 3 does really well.
Yeah.
So I'm still high on him.
And I just want to throw this out there. I don't know what happened. It wasn't good. There's nothing I can say that was good. The only highlight, his 4 wins, Aonishiki, Kirishima, Kotozakura, and then a little free one against Ichi Yamamoto. But like, it's more shocking to me that I'm like, how did you beat 3 guys, like one who's an Ozeki, one who's a Sekiwake that for long stretches of the tournament was in the running for the yusho, and the other, the Ozeki who's on a Yokozuna run who did win the yusho. I'm like, how did you lose 11 matches, but those are 3 of your wins? You know what I mean?
Easily 3 of the hardest matches that you should have.
Yeah. What degree did you put him at? Sorry, I already forgot.
I didn't even do a degree. I just said I was trying to avoid putting a number.
Give me a number.
I'm going to give he's up in an 82. I'm doing it. I'm committing to these guys.
I love that you are more confident about it because I think I kind of am too. I'm just someone needs to get at me in the comments and like talk me off the ledge because I am such an Oho guy and it's borderline unhealthy at this point, but I'm just like, the fact that the JSA only dropped him to Maegashira 3 also tells me that they think he's going to do it as well, you know?
Well, it's like, am I going to look like a clown at the end of the year? Probably, but I'm going into it confident.
Listen, we are, I'll say it again, our 2025 Yung-zeki Sweepstakes had Kinbozan leading the train, so everybody it was Kinbozan, and mine was Takerufuji and Hiradoumi, so everybody take us with a grain of salt, but this is how we feel right now.
We've been hyped on a lot of people, and you know what? We've been right about at least one with Aonishiki, so I'm riding that.
Exactly. We're just going to keep cashing that check. How about this one? This one out of his control a little bit, but Hakunofuji. Where would you put your temperature on Hakunofuji right now, considering he pulled out on day 13, missed those last 3 days. Before that was on a 4-match losing streak. However, he had wins. He had a win against Onosato and looked really good there. And in the previous Basho, his win against Hoshoryu, even though he went 6-9, I thought was like the most exciting match of the tournament to me. Like, nobody's questioning if Hakunofuji is good, but like, are we watching injuries destroy a career here? What's your temperature on Hakunofuji, who has now dropped all the way to M7?
That's exactly where I'm at, where I'm like, he's not going to get to Ozeki. I think the injuries got to him too soon. Like you said, he's good, but
and they said,
I don't know that he's going to get up to that level.
Especially now because of all the lost momentum for the year, you know? Like,
yes.
And how good everyone is around him. Are you confident enough about that you go all the way down to 0 degrees now with Hakunofuji when we're only in March?
I'm going to give him like a 40, so it's like still maybe, but like,
wow. I love that, but yeah, I would have dropped as low as like 20 degrees or something, but you're still relatively close.
Oh, I have to shoot high because I'm dumb, so.
Okay, but
I'm too dumb to give up.
Because I know because he's so good. When he's healthy and when he's blasting, he's insane. We're not saying Hakunofuji's not going to win yushos, maybe 3 yushos, but again, Tamawashi's a guy who's won multiple yushos in his career and has never been or sniffed Ozeki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How about the last one? This is the one that I forced in there. He just sneaks in. He's at M17, but he's gotten there. Fujiryoga, who I was telling everyone is this insane beast. Then he really disappointed me from J3, went 9-6, but he still got to come up here. How are you feeling about Fujiryoga? And feel free to pivot off to me if you don't feel like you have enough data because he's making his Makuuchi debut. But what do you got any thoughts on Fujiryoga here, or what you would want to see from him in a debut to really give him a good temperature?
Man, I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about him. Just look at this. God, he has not been going very long. He really shot up fast.
That's what I'm saying. He's another guy who's doing Onosato, he's doing Takerufuji, he's doing the things that these crazy studs do. But again, like with Yoshinofuji, who we're seeing him kind of level off, which dropped your degrees always to 50 degrees. Honestly, I would put him at 50 degrees. I'm just like right in the middle where, I don't know, I was driving the hype train and stuff like that. But seeing him go 9-6 from J3 was really like a grumpy harumph from me there. Whereas I want to see him, I'm hoping that was a hiccup. But if he doesn't get 11 wins in this tournament, then I start to question it. Not because
I think it was also a learning curve too, because that was only his second time fighting that many days in a row.
Yes, that's fair. And I was just like so high in him, considering that the first time he ever had a 15-day tournament, he went 13-2 and won Juryo. But then seeing him at J3, he had to fight a lot of former Maegashira men. He had to fight Meisei. Well, he lost. He had to fight Asasuiryu, who's the younger brother of Asakoryu, who's been up here in Juryo banging bodies for a while. Well, he lost. He had to go up and fight Tsurugisho, beat him. That's good. But Sadman, Sadanoumi, beat him. Shirakuma, former Maegashira, got Fujiryoga. He did beat Shonanoumi. But again, I'm like, oh, are you just kind of like mixing it up here? I don't know. So I'd put him at 50 degrees, but this, I want to see him come onto the screen like a screaming eagle here to get him above that 50 degrees and get him more than halfway. But Nick, now is the moment.
I agree the same.
Oh, appreciate you. Now's the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to give our dark horses and our picks. How about a dark horse, Nick? A lot of times we're looking at low Maegashira guys, but who's a guy who you don't necessarily think is the favorite to win it, but because of his ranking, because of situational factors, you think is going to be surprise in contention on days 13, 14, 15 this Basho?
Me, I'm kind of leaning for Asanoyama on that one.
Yes, tell me why. We've already talked a little bit, but give me the case.
I just think he's so much better than everybody around him, where
Yes.
he's still out of practice truly for like the top, and like that, even at his former level, like we've seen those people, like they still struggle a little bit, but it's like he has so many people around him he should just clean up.
Right. His
And he's angry that he didn't get 10 wins last time, and I'm like, that's a big deal.
I agree. That's huge, and I love that. And again, insert SpongeBob SquarePants here, but Squidward technique. Like his physicals are not entirely there anymore. The speed of his Tachi was always the strength, that he could be as heavy as he was and crash into guys as quickly as he did. However, the technique, man, seeing him fight on a Mawashi, seeing him like really go through a young, athletic, big guy like Hatsuyama last Basho, that's still really there. I love that pick. For me though, I'm going Kinbozan. We talked about it a little bit. He's my dark horse because the physicals are insane, and the guys he's fighting here, Kinbozan should be able to clean up Kotoeho and Fujiryoga, even though I like both of them, but coming up from Juryo. Asahaku-ryu is a stacked monster, but so is Kinbozan. There should be nothing intimidating there. Midori Fuji, actually, I think is a loss he should take, but even Mitakeyumi, I feel bad for not picking our boy Nishiki Fuji, but the highs we've seen from Kinbozan are so high. I just think he's my dark horse pick coming out of this. But now, the big moment. Nick, who's your favorite to win in March?
If they're all healthy, it's probably Onosato, but I want it to be Aonishiki. I think just for like the sake of like the record too, where it's been like a decade since anybody's done this.
Yeah, and he's healthy. Like Hoshoryu and Onosato might be, but last Basho kind of like gave me pause. So is Aonishiki officially your pick to win this for the favorite?
I think so, because like you said, like he is healthy. He is gunning for this, and this is his promotion potential.
Yeah. Honestly, I got the same thing. And it's only because I'm uncertain about the health of those two guys. I'm very glad that Onosato went 8-4 against Kotozakura. But the 4, I'm like, what happened in those 4? Are you still dropping that left shoulder? Can guys like what every Isegahama Rikishi did, just like plow face first into your hurt left shoulder with their right arm in order to get you to back off? Is that still going to be a technique that everyone can use against you? And Hoshoryu, I'm just terrified of knee injuries, man. He didn't show any fear with it last Basho, but Phil was talking to us, and we'll talk to him again next week, but about how like there's notoriously low blood flow into those knee joints, so they're slow healing. So I gotta believe that meniscus is still torn, even if it's better than it was. I'm with you. I think Aonishiki, I know it's insane because no one's won 3 straight in a decade plus, but if there's a wounded field, if he's doing things like adding weight, if he's healthy, I think he's going to do it, man. So we might be looking at a new Yokozuna, huh?
I think so.
Oh, baby.
I'm doing it. That's why I'm staking it.
I love it. I don't know. We might be wrong for all the reasons we said. Like if either of those Yokozunas bounces back, then I could easily see them throwing Aonishiki off his game. The fact that like it's just so hard to win 3 in a row. There's so many things stacked against him. But at this point, I'm sick of picking against him. So I'm just not going to do it. Let us know in the comments who your pick or your dark horse is. But I cannot wait for March to get started. Nick, anything else to wrap us up with?
Nope, I think we've hit everything.
I love it. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Can't wait for the Basho. We'll talk again soon.